Maybe you are not lazy. Maybe you are not weak. Maybe you are not broken in the way you think you are. Maybe you have just been living in survival mode for so long that your pain started to feel normal. That is the danger of it, not the panic, not the burnout, not even the numbness. The real danger is adaptation, because the human mind can adapt to almost anything, even to a life that is quietly destroying it. And once your body gets used to living under pressure, you stop calling it suffering. You call it being busy. You call it adulthood. You call it responsibility. You call it stress. You call it life. But deep down, something in you knows this is not life. This is endurance. This is waking up tired even after sleep. This is never fully relaxing, even in silence. This is sitting in a safe room with an unsafe nervous system. This is answering messages, doing tasks, going to work, making plans, laughing in the right places, while some invisible part of you never stops scanning for danger. That is what survival mode does. It does not always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks functional. Sometimes it looks like discipline. Sometimes it looks like independence. Sometimes it even looks like strength. But strength and constant tension are not the same thing. A person in survival mode can look calm on the outside and still feel hunted on the inside. That is why it confuses so many people. Because nothing is wrong enough. There is no fire, no collapse, no obvious tragedy in the room. Just a quiet, constant pressure. A pressure that follows you into the morning, into your relationships, into your food, into your sleep, into your thoughts, into your body. And after a while, you stop noticing how unnatural it is. You stop asking why resting feels guilty, why peace feels unfamiliar, why joy feels weak, why your chest is tight for no clear reason, why even good moments feel temporary, fragile, almost suspicious. Because survival mode teaches you a cruel lesson. It teaches you that calm never lasts. So even when life gives you a quiet moment, you do not trust it. You wait for the next problem, the next disappointment, the next shift in mood, the next bill, the next mistake, the next loss, the next reason to harden again. And that waiting changes you, slowly, quietly, brutally, not all at once. That is why so many people miss it. They think survival mode is something extreme, some dramatic collapse, some obvious breaking point. But for many people, it is much quieter than that. It is becoming a person who no longer feels fully present in their own life. It is eating without tasting, scrolling without seeing, resting without recovering, talking without feeling connected, sleeping without feeling restored, living without ever really arriving inside the moment. You are there, but you are not fully there. A part of you is always somewhere else, behind, ahead, preparing, protecting, bracing. And when a person lives like that for too long, they do not just lose energy, they lose access to themselves. That is the part nobody explains. Survival mode does not only exhaust you, it steals things from you. It steals your softness, your curiosity, your spontaneity, your appetite for life, your ability to feel safe in simple things, your ability to be light without feeling careless, your ability to rest without feeling lazy, your ability to exist without being on guard. And the longer it lasts, the more it starts to feel like personality. You start saying things like, "This is just how I am." But maybe it is not. Maybe you are not cold. Maybe you are guarded. Maybe you are not lazy. Maybe you are depleted. Maybe you are not emotionless. Maybe you are over-defended. Maybe you do not lack discipline. Maybe your body is tired of being treated like a battlefield. That is the tragedy of survival mode. It does not always destroy your life from the outside. Sometimes it destroys your experience of life from the inside. You still get up, still do what needs to be done, still answer, still show up, still function. But functioning is not the same as living, and that difference matters more than most people realize. Because there comes a point where a person can become so good at surviving that nobody notices they disappeared. Not even them. That is the darkest part. And not the pain itself, but the moment the pain becomes familiar. The moment exhaustion starts to feel reasonable. The moment numbness starts to feel safe. The moment emptiness stops sounding like a warning and starts sounding like identity. That is when survival mode becomes dangerous. Because now you are no longer fighting it. You are building your life around it. You are scheduling around it, thinking through it, loving through it, working through it, sleeping through it, aging through it, and calling it normal. But there is nothing normal about living in a body that never feels fully safe. There is nothing normal about needing constant noise to avoid your own mind. There is nothing normal about being unable to rest without guilt. There is nothing normal about feeling detached from your own joy. There is nothing normal about carrying invisible tension so long that you forget what ease even feels like. That is not peace. That is not maturity. That is not who you were supposed to become. That is a nervous system that learned survival too well. And maybe that is why you feel so far away from yourself. Maybe your soul is not empty. Maybe it is tired. Maybe your body is not failing you. Maybe it has been protecting you for too long. Maybe your heart did not disappear. Maybe it just went quiet under the weight of too much pressure, too much vigilance, too much time spent bracing for impact. Because some people do not fall apart loudly. Some people fall apart silently. They become efficient, detached, productive, independent, useful, and deeply and visibly exhausted. So if your life feels distant, if your mornings feel heavy before the day even begins, if rest does not feel like rest, if peace feels unfamiliar, if joy feels harder than it should, if you feel like you are here but never fully alive, then maybe the problem is not that you forgot how to live. Maybe you just learned how to survive too well. And maybe healing does not begin with becoming stronger. Maybe it begins with telling the truth. This is not normal. This is not peace. This is not who I am. This is what happened to me. Because the moment you stop romanticizing your exhaustion, the moment you stop calling your numbness maturity, the moment you stop mistaking constant tension for strength, you begin to see it. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. You realize that you were never meant to spend your whole life bracing. You were never meant to be in a constant state of internal defense. You were never meant to survive every day and call that living. And maybe that is where it starts. Not with some perfect transformation, not with instant peace, not with becoming a new person overnight. Just with this, the quiet, terrifying, necessary realization that survival became your routine and you were starting to disappear inside it. So no, you're not crazy for feeling tired. You are not weak for feeling empty. You are not broken because joy feels far away. You may just be someone who has been in survival mode for so long that your body forgot what safety feels like. And the first step back to life is to stop calling survival normal.